Your future spouse is no longer debating whether to come. They are preparing how to stand before you, without confusion, without half-truths, and without the weight of unspoken intentions. This is why you may have felt sudden emotional waves without clear triggers, moments of calm followed by sudden alertness, or an unexplainable urge to organize your space, your thoughts, or even your heart. These are not random impulses. They are signals that your inner world is responding to an approaching reality. When someone reaches the point of choosing you fully, the energy travels ahead of them, announcing their arrival long before footsteps are heard. This is not a coincidence wrapped in romance. It is a convergence of decisions that were delayed only until both sides were strong enough to receive the truth without fear. Understand this carefully now, because what makes this arrival powerful is not just who is coming, but what they are bringing with them emotionally and mentally. Your future spouse has been carrying conversations inside them that were never spoken aloud, questions that matured into answers, and doubts that transformed into certainty through experience, not imagination. They are arriving with clarity, shaped by mistakes they do not wish to repeat, and lessons they do not want to relearn the hard way. This is why their presence will feel grounded rather than dramatic, intense rather than loud, and serious rather than impulsive. They are stepping into your home knowing that this step cannot be undone without consequence, and that awareness has made them more present than ever before. This is not about proving anything to you. It is about honoring something they already know. The moment they cross your threshold, a line is crossed internally as well. A line between observing from a distance and participating fully in a shared reality. There is a reason this moment was protected from premature exposure, because premature awareness would have distorted its impact. If this arrival had happened earlier, it would have carried uncertainty, but now it carries intention. Your future spouse has reached a stage where external voices no longer shape their direction, and internal truth has taken full command. They are no longer asking for signs, because they became the decision themselves. This is why delays occurred, because alignment was required on levels you could not see. Emotional readiness, mental stability, and the courage to be seen without armor had to mature simultaneously. When they come to your home, it will not be to escape something, it will be to choose something. And choice carries responsibility. That responsibility is being embraced, not feared. This is why the energy feels heavy yet reassuring, because something serious is being welcomed, not something uncertain. Pay attention now, because this arrival also triggers a shift in how you see yourself within this connection. When someone chooses you with clarity, it reflects something back to you that cannot be ignored. You may notice a sudden awareness of your own boundaries, values, and expectations rising to the surface. This is intentional. This moment is not designed to place one person above the other, but to bring both into alignment with truth. Your future spouse is not coming to complete you. They are coming because they recognize compatibility and growth, not dependence. This is why the meeting carries such weight, because it opens a chapter where honesty becomes non-negotiable, and presence becomes essential. Conversations that follow will not feel forced, because they are born from readiness, not pressure. Silence, if it appears, will not feel awkward, because understanding will already be present beneath it. Let this final realization anchor itself within you, because it prepares you for what comes immediately after the door opens. This is not the peak, it is the threshold. What begins with a visit evolves into decisions, conversations, and alignments that redefine direction. Your future spouse is stepping into your space with awareness of consequences and acceptance of responsibility, and that is why this moment matters. Something big is not happening to test you, it is happening to establish something real. The timing is precise, the intention is clear, and the movement is already in progress. This is not a story that fades after the moment passes, it is a sequence that continues unfolding with purpose. What arrives next will make sense only because this step was taken first, and that is why everything led here. My beloved child. As this moment draws closer, the atmosphere around you is shifting in a way that feels both subtle and undeniable, because some arrivals announce themselves quietly before they ever become visible. You may notice time behaving differently now, moments stretching longer than usual, thoughts looping back to the same feeling of expectancy, as if something important is standing just outside the frame of your awareness. This is not impatience, it is alignment. Your future spouse is entering a phase where hesitation no longer feels safe, because avoiding truth has become more uncomfortable than facing it. They are aware that walking toward your home is not just a physical movement, it is an emotional declaration that reshapes how they will live from this point forward. The weight they carry is not fear anymore, it is responsibility, and responsibility sharpens focus, rather than dulling it. This is why their energy feels steady instead of chaotic, intentional instead of rushed. What approaches you now carries maturity, not impulse, and that distinction changes everything. There is something profound happening within them that deserves your awareness, because it explains the seriousness of this approach. Your future spouse has reached a point where patterns from the past no longer justify repeating themselves, and that realization has redirected their priorities completely. They are no longer negotiating with old versions of themselves. They are choosing growth over familiarity. This is why the decision to come to your home feels final in their heart, even before it becomes visible in action. They are not arriving to ask questions they already know the answers to. They are arriving to confirm alignment through presence. The silence that may accompany them is not emptiness, it is concentration. They have understood that meaningful connections require presence without performance, honesty without strategy, and intention without escape routes. When they stand before you, their clarity will be felt more than it is spoken, because truth does not need decoration. What makes this moment rare is not romance alone, but timing aligned with readiness on both sides. You have been prepared quietly as well, even if you did not notice the preparation taking shape. Experiences that strengthened your boundaries, moments that clarified your values, and pauses that taught you patience were all part of this alignment. This is why the anticipation feels grounded rather than overwhelming, because you are not being pulled into something unknown. You are stepping into something that recognizes you as you are now. Your future spouse is not coming to rewrite who you are. They are coming because who you have become fits the future they are choosing. This meeting is not designed to disrupt your stability. It is designed to integrate with it. That is why the energy feels serious, because seriousness emerges when two paths converge with awareness rather than illusion. As this arrival nears, you may feel an inner quiet that contrasts with the significance of what is happening, and that quiet is intentional. It exists to allow clarity to surface without distraction. Your future spouse has released the need for dramatic gestures, because authenticity has taken precedence over display. They understand that walking into your home carries meaning that does not need explanation, because actions at this level speak louder than promises ever could. When they arrive, it will not be with uncertainty hidden behind confidence. It will be with presence, grounded in acceptance. They are aware that this step changes the dynamic permanently, and they have accepted that reality rather than resisting it. This acceptance is what makes the moment powerful, because it removes ambiguity and replaces it with direction. Let this understanding settle within you now, because it prepares you for the depth of what follows. This arrival is not the climax, it is the commitment to continuation. What begins here unfolds through conversations that reshape expectations, through shared silence that builds trust, and through decisions that define direction. Your future spouse is not approaching your home to observe from the outside. They are approaching to participate fully in what comes next. Something big is not approaching to surprise you briefly, it is approaching to stay. This moment stands as a threshold between anticipation and reality, and once crossed, it cannot be unseen or undone. What comes next will build upon this step with intention, clarity, and purpose, and that is why this arrival matters more than it first appears. My beloved child, as the moment draws, there are moments in life when silence stops feeling empty and begins feeling significant, not uncomfortable, not uncertain, meaningful. The kind of silence that appears just before something real takes shape. That is the energy surrounding this phase now. Everything feels quieter, not because nothing is happening, but because something important is settling into clarity beneath the surface. Life has a way of slowing certain moments down when they matter deeply. It removes unnecessary noise. It softens distractions. It creates space for emotions to become understood instead of reacted to impulsively. And that is exactly where your future spouse stands now. They are no longer caught between possibilities or overwhelmed by confusion. They have crossed an internal threshold where waiting has become heavier than moving forward. Distance no longer feels protective to them. It feels incomplete. For a long time, they may have carried hesitation, uncertainty, or emotional caution, trying to convince themselves there was still time to postpone what their heart already knew. But something shifted gradually within them, not through pressure, not through fantasy, through clarity. A kind of calm realization that continued avoidance no longer aligned with the life they truly wanted. That is why the pull toward you feels steady rather than chaotic. It is not based on impulse or emotional intensity alone. It is rooted in understanding, deep understanding. They are beginning to recognize that moving toward you is not simply an emotional decision. It is a life decision, one connected to alignment, truth, and the kind of future that can only be built through presence rather than imagination. What makes this moment so powerful is that their movement toward you carries deliberateness instead of desperation. People often misunderstand what real readiness looks like. They imagine dramatic confessions, overwhelming emotional displays, or impulsive decisions driven by temporary excitement. But genuine readiness usually arrives quietly. It arrives after reflection has already done its work internally. Your future spouse has spent more time processing this connection than you may fully realize. They have examined their fears, they have questioned their intentions, they have confronted the emotional weight of what it means to genuinely choose someone instead of merely being drawn to them temporarily. And through all of that reflection, something became undeniable to them. Every path that pulled them away from truth eventually felt exhausting. Half decisions became emotionally draining. Surface-level distractions lost their appeal. Possibilities that once seemed attractive no longer carried the same emotional meaning because they lacked depth. Slowly, almost invisibly, they began releasing alternative versions of their future that did not include real emotional presence. They stopped negotiating with themselves about whether to keep one foot in uncertainty and one foot in connection. That internal division has been dissolving quietly over time, and what remains now is simplicity, not simplistic thinking, but emotional clarity stripped of unnecessary confusion. They are choosing depth over distraction, consistency over avoidance, reality over fantasy. This is why their energy feels grounded rather than frantic. They are not rushing toward you to escape loneliness, prove something, or seek temporary reassurance. They are moving toward you because something inside them has become fully aware that your connection aligns with who they genuinely want to become moving forward. At the same time, something important is happening within you as well. Whether consciously or unconsciously, you are becoming more prepared to receive this connection from a place of balance instead of emotional urgency. You may notice your standards becoming clearer, your tolerance for ambiguity fading, your awareness of what you will and will not accept becoming stronger than before. This is not defensiveness, it is emotional refinement. Real connection requires both people to arrive with honesty about themselves and clarity about what they are willing to build. That is why this phase feels serious without feeling overwhelming. The energy surrounding it is stabilizing both sides simultaneously. Your future spouse is moving toward commitment internally, while you are becoming more grounded in self-awareness externally. Those two movements are creating alignment, and alignment changes the tone of everything. It removes the need for emotional chasing. It removes the confusion created by mixed signals, avoidance, or hidden intentions. Instead, it creates a quieter kind of certainty where both people gradually recognize that they are no longer approaching each other from fragmentation. They are approaching from readiness. That is why this connection feels different from past experiences. It is not designed to impress you temporarily. It is designed to reveal truth steadily. The meeting ahead is not about performance, it is about recognition, about two people standing in front of each other without the emotional masks that once protected them from vulnerability. And vulnerability handled with maturity creates grounding instead of chaos. As this moment approaches, even the meaning of home begins changing emotionally. Home is no longer just a physical location or a place associated with comfort and routine. It becomes symbolic of truth, presence, and lived reality. When your future spouse steps into your space, they are not simply entering a house or crossing a physical distance. They are stepping into a version of life where intentions can no longer remain abstract. Being present changes everything because presence requires accountability. It requires consistency. It requires willingness to remain engaged, even when emotions become complicated or effort becomes necessary. Your future spouse understands this more deeply now than before. That is why their energy carries emotional weight, not heaviness in a negative sense, but significance. Weight belongs to things that matter, and they are beginning to understand that this connection matters enough to require real action rather than continued contemplation. What makes this beautiful is that they are not arriving with demands placed upon you. They are arriving with responsibility placed upon themselves. That distinction transforms the entire dynamic. It removes pressure. It removes emotional manipulation. It removes the expectation that you must immediately provide certainty before they take emotional accountability for their own intentions. Instead, they are choosing to show up honestly first, to stand where truth lives, even if truth requires vulnerability from them. This kind of energy creates mutual respect because it says, I am not here to consume your peace or seek validation from your existence. I am here because I recognize the value of what this connection could become if handled with integrity. That mindset changes everything about how relationships unfold. It creates stability because it is built on willingness rather than emotional dependency. There is also a quiet inevitability surrounding this phase that neither of you can fully ignore anymore. Something large is shifting, but not in a dramatic or disruptive way. It is shifting with precision. The closeness you feel now carries calmness, because this transformation has been tested through time already. Your future spouse did not arrive at this point suddenly. Their clarity survived uncertainty, their feelings survived distance, their intentions survived reflection. That matters deeply, because emotions alone are not enough to sustain real connection. Clarity is what gives emotions direction, and direction is what turns feelings into choices capable of shaping an actual future. Your future spouse is beginning to understand that certain truths cannot remain postponed forever. Some connections eventually ask to be lived rather than endlessly analyzed, and that realization is refining them internally. It is stripping away fantasy and replacing it with grounded intention. They are no longer imagining temporary moments with you alone. They are imagining continuity, shared life, presence over time, effort maintained consistently rather than emotionally promised in fleeting moments. This is why their movement feels stable rather than impulsive. Stability is created by people willing to remain present after emotions settle into everyday reality, and they are approaching this connection with that awareness growing stronger inside them each day. They know that entering your life in a meaningful way means choosing responsibility alongside love. It means allowing themselves to be fully seen without escape routes waiting in the background. That level of emotional honesty changes people because it removes the safety of pretending indifference when vulnerability becomes real. Meanwhile, your own awareness continues strengthening in ways designed to support this transition rather than destabilize it. You are becoming more grounded in your expectations, more conscious of your emotional boundaries, and more aware of the kind of consistency your heart truly requires. This is not resistance to love, it is preparation for healthy love. Real love does not ask you to abandon clarity in order to experience connection. It deepens clarity. It helps you recognize the difference between temporary emotional intensity and lasting emotional presence. And the connection unfolding here is built on recognition more than projection. Both of you are slowly moving beyond fantasy into truth, beyond anticipation into reality. That is why everything feels quieter now, simpler, more focused. The superficial aspects lose importance, while deeper qualities become impossible to ignore. Presence matters more than promises. Consistency matters more than dramatic declarations. Emotional honesty matters more than perfectly curated words. Your future spouse understands this now. When they come toward you, they are not trying to create a fleeting emotional high. They are stepping into a lived sequence that carries direction and continuity. They are choosing to remain emotionally engaged, even when reality requires patience, communication, effort, and accountability. And that choice is what gives this moment such profound significance. Because once reality begins replacing speculation, life changes permanently. The door opening between you will not simply mark a meeting, it will mark the end of uncertainty and the beginning of something lived intentionally. something grounded enough to grow steadily rather than collapse under illusion. This is not a passing emotional moment. It is the quiet beginning of a future taking shape through clarity, truth, and mutual readiness.